Right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to the online session of microprocessors and microcontrollers class. Hope my voice and the share screen are clear to you. If there is any problem, just inform me in the chat box. So, yes, we were discussing about 8259. We just started in the last class, which is nothing but programmable interrupt controller or priority interrupt controller. Okay, if we call it both the names. So in the previous class, we saw what was interrupt and what is the necessity of this 8259. Okay, so how does this perform this interrupt process? That all we saw in the last class. Hope that introduction part is clear to you. We also saw the architecture of 8258, the different blocks of 8258, like interrupt request register, priority resolver, interrupt in-service register, interrupt mask register. Okay, so all these we saw in the last class. Okay, so we also had a discussion that these 8259 can be operated in cascade. Okay, these 8259 can be operated in cascade when we have more than 8 interrupts. Okay, in order to serve all the interrupts, these 8259 can be operated in cascade. And in order to control that cascade, that means in order to have master mode and slave mode, we have a block called cascade buffer one. Okay. So that was all about the discussion that we carried out in the last class. So in today's class, we'll extend the discussion with the pin diagram. Okay. So the pin diagram of 8259 is shown in the screen to you. Okay. So it is generally having 28 pins. Okay. So this 8259 is different from other chips, whereas other chips will have 40 pins by default, but this 8259 will have only 28 pins. Okay. So all the pins you can see here, right? So these are all the pins that you already saw in the architecture itself. These serve as the right. See, these pins will be collecting the interrupt request from the different peripheral devices that are connected. Okay, and you know what is VCC? This supplies the what you can say supply power supply pin. Okay, and this is the interrupt request input pin, and these are all the data buffers that communicate with 8086, and these two pins will be performing the write operation and the read operation. This pin helps you for chip selection process. Okay, and this pin provides you the ground to the entire chip, and these pins are related to the data bus buffer CAS0, CAS1. Okay, in yesterday's class we did not get the screenshots of purpose of each block of architecture, so that you can take screenshots. Why to take screenshots? I'll send you the PPT after this class. I'll send you the PPT. Why to take screenshots and all? Okay, I'll send you the PPT. Do not worry about that. Okay, right. See, Yes, CAS0, CAS1, and CAS2. So these are related to your cascade buffer block. Okay, these pins helps you to select the 8259 in cascade mode. Okay, and these pin helps you to indicate whether it is working in cascade mode or normal mode. Okay, cascade mode or normal mode, right? So that is about the pins. Okay, so these are all the things that we have already seen in the architecture itself. Okay, so hope everything is clear to you, right? So you have to remember one thing here. It is just a 28 pin chip, 28 pin chip. Okay, that's it about the pin diagram. And let us just have a glance at the interrupt procedure, interrupt sequence, how actually uh, interrupt sequence happens in 8086 system. Okay, so what are all the combinations? Just a minute. Right. See, so in combination of 8086 and 8259, how the interrupt procedure takes place in the 8086 system. So what happens? The first thing is one or more IR lines. IR lines is what? Interrupt request lines. We have IR0 to IR7. Okay, so those are called IR lines. Interrupt request lines are raised high that set corresponding the IRR bit. Okay, so from different peripheral devices that we have connected, we receive one or more interrupt requests. We get one or more interrupt requests, and among the received interrupt requests, 8259, okay, 8259 resolves the priority and sends an interrupt signal to the CPU. This we saw in the last class while explaining the architecture and different blocks of architecture we saw. So first thing what happens, it receives the interrupt signals from different peripheral devices. Later on, after receiving the interrupt request from different peripheral devices, it resolves the priority among all the requests. Then out of all the interrupt requests, one interrupt request is selected, and it is sent to the CPU. Okay, and it is sent to the CPU through INT signal, right? So then what happens after we sending the interrupt request signal to the CPU? The CPU, what does the CPU does here? The CPU acknowledges with INTA signal. The CPU acknowledges with what? INTA signal. That means what? Yes, I am ready to accept the interrupt of that particular device. I am ready to accept that interrupt of that particular device. Okay, so that is acknowledged by the CPU. Okay, so we will be sending a request to the CPU, and CPU will send an acknowledgement, just like delivery report. Okay, that is the next step. So upon receiving the interrupt acknowledgement signal from the CPU, the highest priority ISR bit. What do you mean by ISR bit? In service register bit is set, and the corresponding IRR bit is reset. The 8259 does not drive the data during this period. So what is the meaning of this particular step? So in order to make you understand, what I will do is I'll just go back to the architecture. Okay, just to make you understand, I'll just go back to the architecture part here. Just a minute. Yes, this is the architecture part here. Just to make you understand regarding this point. What does he saying? What is he saying now? See, upon receiving the interrupt acknowledgement signal from the CPU. That is, after receiving the acknowledgement signal from the CPU, what happens inside the 8259? That is the important point here. What happens? The highest priority ISR bit, okay, the highest priority ISR bit is set and the corresponding IRR bit is reset. Okay, so what, let us understand through this architecture. See, concentrate on this. Suppose that we have received four interrupt requests. One, 2, 3, and 4. Let us say we have received 4 interrupt requests. Out of these 4 interrupt requests, these are sent to the priority resolver, and the priority resolver resolved that 2 is the highest priority request. Okay, hope all of you are understanding. Okay, so out of these 4 interrupt requests, the priority resolver decided that the interrupt request 2 is having highest priority. Okay, and after resolving this priority, what does this 8259 do? This 8259 sends an interrupt request to the CPU. Now what happens? The CPU sends an interrupt acknowledgement. The CPU sends an interrupt acknowledgement signal that I am ready to accept the interrupt. After this, what happens is that this second interrupt request, okay, this second interrupt request of this IRR, okay, here this in ISR, this second bit is made set. The second bit is made set. That means, what is the meaning of this? That means the second interrupt request is being served by the CPU. Out of these four requests that you got, this second bit is being served. That is the meaning of this. And after setting in ISR, interrupt service register, what happens here in the IRR, interrupt request register, in IRR, this is reset. This is what? Reset. Why? Because why we are resetting this here? Because this is already being served. Okay. Why do we need to keep here as a set? Okay. So that is why we reset here, and we are, that means the second bit is ready to accept another interrupt request here. Okay. Hope the point is clear now. This second bit was selected as the highest priority bit, and this is being served by the CPU. That means this request is being processed. When this request is being processed, why should this bit be set in position? This is reset, and this bit is ready to accept the next interrupt signal through this one. Okay, hope the point is clear. Okay, so that is the meaning of the point. During this entire process, the 8259 will not accept any data. During this entire process, the 8259 will not accept any interrupt request. That means any data will not be transferred. That is the meaning. Hope the point is clear. Okay. Just to make you understand, I'll give you an example. Suppose see, you will be seeing the toll gate. The one practical example I'm giving you. You'll be seeing the toll gate. Okay. So when you reach the toll gate, you'll have a gate. Okay. You'll have a gate. After paying the toll tax, then the gate automatically gets lifted and the vehicle gets passed on and the vehicle gets moved. Similarly, here also, this is the toll gate, and out of these, this second vehicle pays the toll tax. When it is paying the toll tax, it has to be released. Why to keep here? Okay. When it is released, this position will be vacant, and another vehicle can come and pay this toll tax here. Okay. That is the mean. Okay. Right. Let us go back to the interrupt sequence of 8086. Hope the point is clear to you. Next point is what does the 8086 do here? So after doing that, the 8086 will initiate a second interrupt acknowledgement pulse. The 8086 will initiate a second interrupt acknowledgement pulse. During this period, the 8259A releases an 8-bit pointer onto the data bus from where it is read by the CPU. Okay, that means what? It is again ready to accept the interrupt request. It is again ready to accept the interrupt request. Someone message me. Voice is breaking. Right. I'll try to move the position. That should be clear. Right. Next. So this completes the interrupt cycle. That means what? Once one interrupt is being served, then after it is being served, then 8259 is ready to accept the next set of interrupt requests. Okay, the 8259 is ready for next set of interrupt requests. Okay, so this entire process is nothing but the interrupt request process, interrupt request and serving process. This is the step-by-step procedure that takes place when we interface 8259 with 8086 for processing the interrupt request of different peripheral devices. Okay, so this completes the interrupt cycle. And the ISR bit. ISR bit means what? In service request. In service request bit is reset at the end of the second INTA pulse. At the end of second INTA pulse. Okay. And if automatic end of interrupt mode is programmed, okay, there are different modes of operation actually that we'll be seeing later on. Okay, if the 8259 is programmed in automatic end of interrupt AEOI mode. Okay, automatic end of interrupt mode. That means the interrupt automatically ends after finishing. Okay, how the toll gate is being lifted immediately after paying the toll tax. Similarly, what happens immediately after the interrupt is being served? That particular interrupt will be automatically ended, and the CPU will get ready for the second request, and the CPU will get ready for second interrupt request from the other peripheral devices. Okay. If it is not programmed in AEOI mode, that means automatic end of interrupt mode, we have to reset that particular ISR bit. Okay. Otherwise, ISR bit remains set until appropriate end of interrupt command is issued at the end of interrupt subroutine. That is what happens. If it is in the automatic end of interrupt mode, that particular ISR bit, which is in service bit, will be reset by the 8259 automatically. If it is not operating in automatic end of interrupt mode, we have to generate an end of interrupt command. We have to give end of interrupt command manually. That means we have to end that particular interrupt manually. Okay, until and unless we generate that end of interrupt command, that particular bit will remain in the set condition. Okay, that is the thing. Okay, so these are all the steps. For serving a single interrupt. for serving a single interrupt. Okay, this you have to keep in mind. Okay, how an interrupt is being served, how an interrupt is being received, and how it is resolved into the priority, and then how it is sent to the CPU for serving process, and after serving, how it is getting reset. That you have to understand very clearly. Okay, hope everything is clear to you. If you still have any doubt, just post post those in the chat box. Okay, hoping that everything is clear to you. I am proceeding to the next session, which is very much important. The command words. The command words of 8259. The command words of 8259. Okay. So generally, what did I tell you about the command words? These are the things. These are the things that decide how to work. Okay, these are the commands. These are the command words that decide the interfacing devices, or that tell the interfacing devices how to work, in which mode to work. Okay, what bit to select, what bit to reset. So these are the things that tell the 8259. Okay, and in 8259, that means for 8259, we have two such type of command words. Two such type of command words. One such command word is initialization command word. Initialization command word. And the second one is operational command word. Okay. One is initialization command word, and the next one is what? Operational command word. What are these two? Okay. Why do we have two command words for a single interfacing device? Generally, we will have only a single command word which will be deciding the different operations that take place within the interfacing device. But here we will have two different command words. And what is the necessity of having two different command words? Okay. The necessity is, first, we need to initialize the 8259. We need to initialize the 8259 with the interrupt request. That means we need to initialize, we need to start on, we need to start up this 8259, in which mode you have to work. Okay, what are the different whether, okay, we have a possibility of taking cascade operations. Okay, that we discussed in the architecture part. That means we can operate two or more 8259s in cascade mode. Okay, so whether when you are operating in the cascade mode, whether you are operating that in the master or in the slave mode. Okay, you are operating that particular 8259 as a master one or a slave one, that you have to decide. Okay, if you are operating in master, how it is operating. Okay, if you are operating that in the slave, how you are operating. Okay, that you have to initialize before getting into the actual mode of operation. Okay, so that particular initialization of 8259 will be done by the initialization command word. Initialization command word. Okay, hope that thing is clear to you. Now, after initializing the 8259 to operate in a particular mode, okay, we will decide that by operational command word. That means what? After initializing this 8259 with all the data, with all the things that are required, then we have to decide in which mode that 8259 has to operate. That mode of operation will be decided by the operational command word. Operational command word. Hope the things are clear to you. Okay. Now let us understand in detail what are different initialization command words that we have, and similarly what are different operational command words we have, and how many, and in how many modes, this 8259 gets operated. What are all the different modes that we have. Okay. For the time being, we'll just understand what are the initialization command words that we have. So this is about initialization command word. See, as I told you, see, initialization command word. Before it starts functioning, the 8259 must be initialized by writing, this is important point here, by writing 2 or 4 command words. 2 or 4 command words. Okay. So why it is 2 or 4? Okay. Why not it is either 2 or 4? Okay. See, minimum I'll complete this paragraph and I'll explain the things here. So we have to write 2 or 4 command words into respective command word registers. These are called what? Initialization command words. Initialization command words. Okay. So the things from this particular paragraph that we need to understand are here the maximum number of initialization command words that could be written for 8259 is 4 maximum number of 4 command words that we can write. And similarly, the minimum number of command words that we can write are 2 different command words. That means compulsorily we need to write 2 initialization command words. Compulsorily we need to write 2 command words. Okay, that is the minimum initialization command words that we have to write for initializing the functioning of 8259. And maximum, in maximum, we can write 4 initialization command words. So, what is the difference between writing 2 initialization command words and 4 initialization command words? In what case we have to restrict ourselves to 2 initialization command words, or we have to extend the initialization command words to 4 in what case? That we have to understand. That we'll try to understand, right? Now, what you have to understand? If A naught is equal to 0, A naught is equal to 0, and D4 is equal to 1, the control word is recognized as initialization command word 1. It contains the control bit for edge. Okay, so this is all about initialization command words 1 and 2. But before that, I'll explain you in what case we are restricting ourselves to two initialization command words, and in what case we are extending our initialization command words to 4. That I will try to explain before, and I'll get back to this discussion later. Just give me a minute. I'll give you the flow chart regarding the right. See, this is the flow chart that tells you where you have to restrict yourself. Okay, for a common 8259 operation, see here, for any common 8259 operation, we have to write 2 different command words, 2 initialization command words compulsory. These 2 initialization command words are compulsory for any general 8259 operation. For any general 8259 operation. But you have a condition here. You have a condition that is called A. Okay, you will have a bit in the command word called A. Okay, so A is nothing but what? In cascade mode. A stands for what? In cascade mode. Whether the 8259 is operating in the cascade mode or it is operating as a single. Okay. Hope you are understanding this point here. Okay. Whether the 8259 is operating in the cascade mode, whether it is operating in the cascade mode or it is operating solely, where it is operating solely. That we have to decide here. That you have to decide here. That is the conditional block. If it is single, if it is single, yes, okay. If it is single means what? No. Okay. In cascade mode means what? If it is no. If the answer is no. In cascade mode, question mark, no. No, the answer is no. If it is no, then you don't require this initialization command word 3. You don't require this ICW3. Okay. And similarly, you have another condition. You have another condition. Whether you require ICW4. That means what? You are operating in the single mode. I'm not talking about the cascade mode here. You are operating in the single mode. That means a single 8259 is being operated. And in that case, you don't require ICW3. That means initialization command word 3 is not required. Not required. And after that, so do you require ICW4? That means do you require initialization command word 4? That you have to decide. That you have to decide. If you require that, you go for ICW4. If you don't require that, you are ready to accept the interrupt request and decide the mode of operation. Decide the mode of operation. Okay, so this is the procedure when you are having only single 8259. Single 8259. That means you have to restrict yourself to 2 initialization command words when you are operating a single 8259. A single 8259. That is about 2 initialization command words. Now, let us see when you require 4 initialization command words. 4 initialization command words. That means if the answer for this question, if the answer for this question is yes, if the answer for this question is yes, then you should definitely require ICW3. You should definitely require ICW3. And ICW4 is your choice. ICW4 is your choice. Okay. Whether you require it or you don't require it. That you have to decide. If you require, you will have your ICW4. If you don't require, you do not have your ICW4. Okay. But when you are operating in the cascade mode, okay, very important point. See, when you are operating in the cascade mode, you will definitely have these 3 initialization command words. ICW4 is your choice, but definitely you require ICW4. After seeing what is ICW1, ICW2, ICW3, and ICW4, you will definitely feel that after having ICW3 in the cascade mode, you will definitely require ICW4. Okay, so when you are operating in the cascade mode, you definitely need 4 initialization command words. Why and how, that you will be seeing later. Okay, hope the points are clear to you now. Hope the points are clear to you one by one, right? Okay. Let us now see what are these initialization command words 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, what does they specify? Okay, how do we initialize the things? Okay, that we will understand now. See, this is the initialization command word 1, and the below one is the initialization command word 2, which are compulsory for any mode of operation, either single mode of operation or cascade mode of operation. Whether you are operating the 8259 in a single one, or whether you are operating that in the cascade mode. Okay, so whatever the mode, you require these 2 initialization command words 1 and 2 for compulsory. See, what does these two initialization command words contain. Okay, what information does these two initialization command words give to the 8259? Okay, that we'll see now. See, this D3 bit. As I told you, all the command words are 8-bit registers. All the command words are 8-bit registers. As you have data bus buffer as 8 bits only. Okay, because you have data bus buffer of 8259 as 8 bits, you will have your command words as 8 bits only. Okay, that is the relation between data bus buffer and command words. Okay, as data bus buffer is 8-bit one, you have your command words as 8-bit registers only. Okay, clear? Next, see here. See the D0 bit, the D0 bit of initialization command word 1, which is ICW1. ICW1. Okay, this is ICW1. So the D0 bit of ICW1 gives you information regarding the ICW4. Here only you can decide whether you require ICW4 or not. Okay, in the initialization command word itself, okay, in the first initialization command itself, you can decide whether you require ICW4 or not. That means if D0 bit of ICW1, the D0 bit of ICW1 is 1, then you require. That means you are telling the 8259 that it requires ICW4. If it is 0, then it is stating 8259 that I don't require ICW4. That is the information giving by D0 bit. And D1 bit, what does this stating here? What is this stating? This is telling the processor that whether 8259 is single or it is mingle. Mingle means what? Whether it is operating in the cascade mode. Whether 8259 is single or mingled. Okay. So that is stated by this D1 bit. That means if it is 1, means what? It is single. If it is 0 means what? It is mingled. That means it is operating in the cascade mode with the other 8259. Okay. Next bit, D2 bit. What does this D2 bit telling? It ADI. ADI means what? Call address interval. Call address interval. That means what? The interval between two interrupt sequences. The interval between two interrupt sequences. Okay. So if it is 1, it states that it requires only 4 bytes of interval. If it is 0, it states that it is 8 bytes. Okay. And call address interval means, hope you are understanding this. That means it is the interval, time interval between two interrupts calling. It may be either 4 bytes or 8 bytes. Okay. Next, D3 bit. What does this D3 bit state here? So D3 bit states that whether the interrupt is level triggered or edge triggered. I told you the difference between level triggered and edge triggered. For those people who missed that class, I am telling you again. Level triggered means this. Okay, level triggered means this. That means 0 level, low level triggered, high level triggered. Okay, low level triggered, high level triggered. Okay, so that means if you take 0 level triggered, then the interrupt is read when the timing cycle goes to 0. If you take 1 unity level triggered, then the interrupt is accepted when it is going high. Okay, that is about level triggered. What do you mean by edge triggered? Edge triggered is nothing but this is the positive edge. That means this is the rising edge and this is the falling edge. This is the rising edge and this is the falling edge, right? Okay, so that is nothing but edge trigger. That means you can accept the interrupt during the rising edge or during the falling edge. Okay, so whether you are taking level triggered interrupt or edge triggered interrupt, that also decided in the ICW1. Okay, so this D4 bit will always be 1. This D4 bit will always be 1, and these bits decide the when interrupt vector address for 85, for 85 mode only, for 85 mode only. Okay, that means for 8085 processors only. Okay, up to 80, that means what, this 8259 can also be used for interfacing with 8085 also. Okay, when you are using this for 8085, then 8085 you need to specify the interrupt vector address. Okay, you need to specify the interrupt vector address. Okay, address of the peripheral device, but here you don't need to specify the interrupt vector address. Okay, in case of 8086, you no need to specify the interrupt vector address. Okay, so that is why these bits are restricted for, or these bits are categorized only for 8085 operations only. Okay, these have nothing to do with what, 8086. These, okay, so these are the information. These are the information that you get from ICW1. ICW1. These are the things that are initialized. That means it specifies whether you need ICW4 or not. It specifies whether the 8259 is operating in single mode or cascade mode. It specifies the timing interval between the two interrupt requests, that means two interrupt calls, and it also specifies whether the interrupt is level triggered or edge triggered. Okay, that is about ICW1. Next, let us look into the ICW2. See here, ICW2. These are also interrupt address. Okay, these are also interrupt address. These A8, A9, A10 are nothing but interrupt request levels. Okay, these are not the address of the microprocessor, and T7 to T3 are the interrupt addresses. Okay, these specifies the interrupt addresses. These specifies the interrupt addresses. These are nothing but interrupt request levels. Okay, so if A0 is equal to 1, we are selecting the ICW2. Okay, so these two, ICW1 and ICW2, are compulsory for any 8259 operation. Whether you are operating in a single mode or cascade mode, then these two are compulsory. Okay, so as the time is running out, I stop here for today. We will discuss the remaining initialization command words and the modes of operation of 8259 in the next class. Okay. See, those who have asked for the screenshots or the PPTs, after completing this topic, I will send the PPT. Okay. Do not worry about that. I'll send the PPT. Okay. So thank you all for joining. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Hoping that there are no doubts. I'm ending the session. Take care of yourself. Please be safe at home. Do not go out. Someone messaged me. Just explain about ADA. Okay. See, this ADA is nothing but interval. Call address interval. Call address interval means what? Suppose we have two interrupt requests, two interrupt calls. Okay, let us say. Then the call address interval between the interrupts. Suppose that we have two interrupt requests from two different peripheral devices. Okay, so we have to have some time interval. Okay, we need to first accept the interrupt request, then process that, we have to resolve the priority. Then we have to send the interrupt request to the CPU. Then CPU has to send the what you can say acknowledgement to the 8259. Then that has to be served. This is nothing but interrupt cycle. A single interrupt cycle that we have seen. Okay, that we have discussed, right? So after processing this, then only you can go for the next interrupt. After processing this, then only you can go for the next interrupt, right? So the time gap between these two calling off interrupts, that means the CPU will ask, after processing one interrupt request, the CPU will ask for the next interrupt request. The time gap between these two is nothing but call address interval. Okay, the time gap between these two is nothing but what? Call address interval. That is decided here. That is decided by the 8259. Okay, because CPU can accept the interrupts one by one without any time gap, but 8259 has some work to do. What is that work? It has to collect the interrupt request, it has to resolve the priority, it has to set or reset the in-service bit, okay, and you have to send the interrupt request. That means this process has to be completed by the 8259 itself. That is why the timing gap between one interrupt request and the other interrupt request, and calling off 1 and 2, the time gap between these two will be decided by the 8259 itself. That is nothing but call address interval. Okay, hope it is clear. 274. Is this clear? 274. Okay, right, I'll stop here for today. Thank you all for joining. Please be safe at home.